Stupid is, stupid does.
Forrest Gump.
Okay, so just for people watching, we have already taken like I don't know, almost 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
I think so, something like 10 minutes.
We were just having fun.
Yeah, and I just wanted to prove if everything sounds great, and had to realize not even everything was wrong. The sound was pressing off all the time on that thing. I haven't been plug. I didn't plug in the microphone here. Oh, that's
Sounds like we should go grab coffee after this.
okay. Let's do that. But just continue. We were talking about a lot of nice, interesting things.
Yeah.
Just to summarize a little bit, so that we
We can keep going.
keep going. Okay. So, and the last question, where I interrupted you. What's your like a general impression of the whole content and the conference? Not so much organizational, but more like what did you hear? What did you see and observe?
Yeah, so Svatoslav and team did a fantastic job. First off, let's acknowledge a few things, right? So he came up with the idea of having the conference, 3 months ago? Or he's always wanted to have it. And he really put the gas pedal on about a month and a half ago. And he's got his team with Ira and everybody. And they threw this together, and let's look at the attendees. You have social influencers, you have news team. They really, both of us got interviewed by local media.
And national TV.
And national TV, which we saw the video of this morning. And if you look at that and the ability to pull all of that together in such a short time, that in itself is impressive. And I guess you asked me to not talk about organizational, but I did anyway.
All right, okay, no problem. Yeah, no.
But
but that actually is a little bit one level above the organization.
Yeah.
To have those influencers, guys, girls.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the content, right? And so I think that there's this misconception, and it's largely due to my country, that biohacking is all about doing more performance, taking this pill, and using this technology. And what I like about the growing trend, at least that I've seen in Europe lately, particularly in London, which we were both at, but also here at this event, is a broader discussion around body, mind, spirit. And I think that is where Biohacking Fest Ukraine really accelerated, because we were both talking about more of the mind area, and others were definitely talking about diet. You had Sim talking about diet, and you had discussions even on Islam, right? And so there was a very broad program covering different aspects of the body, mind, spirit, and how that relates to this idea of biohacking.
Okay, and the reactions, what you saw in the audience, particularly from your speech, but in general, what you saw, people, their eyes, everything. What's your impression about that?
So, I don't know about you, but I was looking around the audience and how many people stayed for all of them and how many people just kind of moved in and out. And it was interesting to see how many people were in their seats, glued and paying attention. And these were pretty long days, right? We started at 9.
So intensive.
Yeah, it started at 9, ended at 8. And there are people paying attention, asking really good questions, coming up to you afterwards, not just to take photos, but to ask very genuine questions. And that excites me. I really get a thrill when people come up to me afterwards and ask good questions, or even ask them during the presentation.
Okay, yeah.
How about you?
Well, yeah, I know a little bit. They face similar problems as we do in terms of, for instance, in Latvia, to make a community like that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing is to bring many people together that are interested in health and self-improvement and everything that is biohacking talking about. But the other thing is to basically give platform, to give stage to wannabe and becoming, turning into a lecturers, speakers, experts, teachers, coaches, because you can see that many people have a lot to say, but the art and form, how they do that, can be improved. And this is very important because to get people stay interested in this topic, to really make this community happen, and this social thing, networking is very important. You have to be patient in educating those people. At the same time, also having world-renowned people as well,
Yeah.
that they can look at. So that's why we also in Riga invited many international speakers, so that those local can look at them and see what they are doing, what they're talking about, and things like that. So, and what I liked about that is that many speakers, not that I'm a good speaker or so, but that even speakers came to me and they were genuinely interested in staying in contact. So many friend requests
Oh,
on
absolutely.
Facebook, that's impossible. I mean, that's really, that shows this hunger
For something new.
Yeah.
Right? And people were excited about that, and I love that energy.
yeah, definitely. Okay. All right. And about you, your talk, what were you talking about?
Sure. So my presentation was largely around the idea of productivity, and I wanted to share some thoughts around how to work really smarter, not harder. And my background, having worked in finance for almost a decade, I definitely got that harder part right. And in this,
You crush it.
yeah, I got the harder part quite right, and it's so right that it ended up hurting me. But in reflection upon that, you kind of realize a couple of things. And what I wanted to share with people is a way to create space, create enjoyment, and create time in their lives. Because I think there's a large misconception about work that we need to have this. In the U.S., they call it a Puritan work ethic. But other places it would just be like roll up your sleeves and work hard, and time equals money. And I think the beauty of technology now is that time doesn't necessarily equal money. You can be a lot smarter about it, and then you can have more time to do what you love.
Okay.
And so did all of that in 30 minutes, which I always wish I had more time. But in doing so, it was really interesting to see like how the audience engaged with the idea.
Okay. And what did you see? This perception of what you talked about?
Well, there are a lot of people that when you ask, what is the future of work? And the guy says unemployment. And you're like, you want to dig so much deeper in that and just figure out why he's saying that. But also, there were certain parts where you can definitely see people engage on the concept of creating more time. I do think that we are in a time-starved society, an attention-starved society for sure. And how do you leverage your time so that you can do what you love? And so when we got around to that and people could see how that worked, there's a lot of engagement. There's a lot of engagement on personal stories too.
It's interesting about this unemployment stuff because now people, when there really no on a huge scale automation to the robots or artificial intelligence is just a small thing. So people are envious to other people that they have taken their jobs.
Yeah.
Now we will get one more additional thing that is not even a human being that can be envious to, jealous that somebody else taking. And I like the Sadhguru answer to that. He was invited to an artificial intelligence conference, and he also gets asked this question: how is that how it's going to influence the society, the community, people, human beings, that we will have everything automated, all jobs are gone? And he says, but don't we all want to do that? Don't we all want to just work less? Isn't that like every single person wants to create for themselves something that a situation where you don't have to work,
Yeah.
really. So, and that's why it's the question, if like, and that goes to your thing too. If you are looking for freeing up your time, you should have the plan what you are going to do with that thing, because Tim Ferriss's idea is also misperceived that 4-hour work week, and you create
Tim
more
Ferriss
time.
does not work 4 hours, right?
Yeah, but he actually elaborated on the
Yeah.
idea, and he said if you work 4 hours a week, you can do multiple 4 hours a week on many things that you are genuinely interested
Yeah.
in. So basically, it's always you have to find this look for how to create the time for you, and not forgetting of what you are going to do with that
Once
time.
you have that time.
Because they fall into this trap that they get more productivity, and what they do, they start working even more.
Yeah. And, you know, that's okay if you start working even more or finding other 4-hour gigs here and there. But it's like people who try the Uberman sleep, right? Where you nap for 20 minutes every 3 hours and you don't actually sleep a full night. In the end, why are you doing that? Like, if you're an Elon Musk type character, maybe it makes sense for you. But if you don't have a true motivation behind it, it could end up leading you down a path you don't want to go. Like, you could play video games at 3 a.m., right? So,
But what do you answer to the assuming they just followed your advice and they really freed up the time? What would be the advice, the recommendation to fulfill those hours, those minutes, days with something meaningful?
this is such a good question, right? Because, I mean, for me, I have a pretty defined purpose and mission that I've spent a lot of time reflecting on. So let's say you create space, you create enjoyment, you create time. Hopefully that gives you a time period for reflection. And so I would initially establish, like, okay, what do you want to do? What's your why? What's your purpose? And then once you have that, your time could get, your free time can get pretty occupied with that stuff very quickly. But I would encourage people to do a little bit of the actualization first before you just say, okay, now I have 30 hours of free time this week. I'm gonna go eat pizza, donuts, or whatever it is, right?
But in that case, you first start working on freeing up your time, or if you start working on your whys, it also gets easier to free up your time and then kind of see the meaning why, or the sense why you should actually use Evernote or Upwork or whatever.
Yeah, this is a case where, like, does the tail wag the dog, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have no time and you experience something called bandwidth poverty, you need to create a little bit of space first. But if you have the time already, yeah, it's great to take that time, figure out, okay, what's going to fit for you? What's going to fit for Casper's? And once you have that, you're going to want to create more time, because once you have that, you're going to feel it. It's a spark, it's an energy, and you're going to want more of that energy. And so then some of those tactics, tools, things that both you and I talked about, because you did a fantastic job talking about it as well in certain cases, and it was,
Thank you.
and it was freeing up that time is just a good, once you have that, you want to fulfill it with energy.
Do you think people that attended this conference, 2-day event, got that right? This message, not only your message, but in general, this thing of working on your health, on your well-being, on your happiness, on your anything that biohacking is talking about.
How many people came up to you after you spoke? Just broad. They're a decent amount, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Decent amount of people. You probably took a fair amount of pictures over the weekend. And what I kind of judge it by, like, what are the conversations I had, how many people wanted to take pictures, what were the questions that they asked. And that gives me confidence that there will be a certain amount of people that will take action on this. We did have a whole piece on transcendental meditation in this, and the crowd was very engaged on that discussion. But for me, any conference, it's like, all right, what is the one thing I'm going to take away from here and implement in my daily life? And I just hope that even people watching this, if they're doing something in Latvia or if they're going to a conference in Ukraine, take one thing away and just implement it and see what happens. And I hope that my feeling is there is a decent amount of people that could do that.
What's your one thing?
One thing that I would take away and implement. More Russian squatting is one of the things that comes to mind. But that's one of your ideas. Let's see. Actually, you give me yours first, and I'm going to think about a few more.
Well, I think what we have left out of our conversation, we actually talked about that, but because the sound didn't record, I actually come back to that because this is exactly my takeaway from the event, and that would be not something that is sort of that I have to start do that early in the morning, although you might, but is that I've been asked specifically from this journalist, and I say it to you second time, but for the audience it's for the first time.
Let's go for it.
And she asked me if I was a millionaire.
But you're a billionaire, right?
Yeah, so, almost. So, and you could see also by the place where it took place, this venue, people that came, mostly entrepreneurs and some more sort of a higher level people, they have this impression that this is wealthy people's stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously not a millionaire. I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm not a millionaire, but still I can practice those things. And because the problems that they are talking about, and Slava, who organized the conference, he specifically relates to this poor health problem in Ukraine. One of the shortest lifespans, health spans, GDP is low, like everything is bad. Maybe in Russia is even worse, but that's no comparison for us. So he sees this as a big problem. It's on the one side. On the other side, yesterday the taxi driver said, yeah, health, it's definitely something that wealthy, rich people are thinking about. Now, and because I know it's quite hard also in Latvia, I know that from my parents, I know that from many other people, that health is bad, lifespan's short, and biohacking seems to be something that you have to buy the newest ring, which costs $300, or some supplements subscribe to on a monthly basis, which costs money, and then you have to make some DNA analysis, and that's just the money part, and then also the understanding of all those things. So basically, there's this impression that it's not available to everyone. Mm-hmm. Whereas what's really clear is that it's particularly important to talk about the biohacking tools. It's because they are available to everyone.
Yeah.
It's because the basics is for free. It's not even 1 penny. You don't. Russian squat it costs nothing. Now we have the longest season where you have cold water. Like 8 months it's cold water. It's biohacking thing. Breathing. You breathe on a daily basis. Why don't you just spend some additional minutes just consciously breathing, and things like that. And that's my key takeaway, this realization that as opposed to communicating what specifically you have to do, first you have to communicate that these things are worth looking at because they are not from millionaires. Yeah. That's my key takeaway.
That's a great one. And I guess upon reflecting on what you just said, there's something that I think is a good takeaway for me, but also for a lot of the Western biohacking world, is that if you want this message to truly catch on, as in not be completely a rich man's game. Show people what the foundations are. There's this whole movement now of quantum biology, which is simply reconnecting with the earth. And reconnecting with the earth costs nothing. How much does it cost you to take your shoes off, your socks off, and go walk on some grass? Now, if you live in a city like Singapore, you may have to walk a little bit, but you can still go do that. And so
They are not living in Singapore, so
that's true. So if you're living in Riga, look, I enjoy my time in Riga, and there's a lot more green space in Riga than Singapore. And so, reconnecting with the earth, that stuff is all, and I just extrapolating we might get hit with something here. Extrapolating that message to just like make sure that people understand that this health thing doesn't have to be super complicated. That's a good one. And then, of course, transcendental meditation has to come back in there too.
the reason why health thing is actually for free, it's because we already have it in us.
Yeah.
We just standing in the way of being healthy. That's basically the problem.
Yeah.
Shoes standing in the way of connecting to the ground, and clothes, central heating, that is all standing in the way.
And if we get into a discussion about evolutionary biology, everything you just mentioned, clothes, heating, air conditioning, all of that stuff is from the past 200 years, maybe. And if you look at us throughout history, this is certainly, a relatively recent phenomenon. And so going back to those evolutionary principles of what we can do will generally guide you on a better path to health.
Okay. So now you are coming to Riga again.
I'll be in Riga in 2 weeks. Actually, a little less than 2 weeks.
Okay,
I'm
so
going to see you there, right?
yeah, I hope so.
We'll make it happen.
So, and you are going to RigaCom.
I'll be at RigaCom.
What are you going to talk about?
So, at RigaCom, which is a business conference, I'm on the Future of Work stage. And my topic is around how to use...
You're going to mention that there's going to be unemployment.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And unemployment may not be necessarily a bad thing for people if you have universal basic income. But...
or you have found your purpose.
Exactly. So if your purpose is something that's unrelated to a monetary value, maybe you'll be able to achieve that. But I will be talking more about using data to optimize your workday and looking at how we can use simple things like subjective measures, but also some of these quantified self-devices that you and I both have. To optimize our workday, optimize our flow, and be just frankly more productive, more superhuman.
Okay. But you are also talking in Biohackers Summit in Helsinki.
I am.
And your topic there?
Is more of the smarter, not harder topic. So it will be a little bit along the lines of what we talked about in Kiev, looking at, again, how to create space, create enjoyment, create time, but also probably a little bit more on the automation side of things.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And how about you? Where does life bring you next?
Well, I'm now doing all sort of stuff in terms of what are not monetary things, like a little bit of communicating a lot of ideas, but I also have those restarts events. Those are we have 1-day events, we have 3-day retreats, we have, and one very exciting thing is going to happen next summer, 25 to 26 July. It's a Restarts Festival. I looked at something similar to South by Southwest or Magnolia in Helsinki. It's going to be something about music, movement, meditation, sounds, breath work, like all sorts of stuff. Nice food. For many people, it's probably fasting. It's ice. It's warm. It's everything. It's like whatever we are supposed to do. Imagine you are in a Stone Age tribe.
Okay.
And imagine what they are doing on the weekend when they don't have to care about gathering food because everything is set. So what we are going to do something like that.
This sounds awesome.
with a little bit more modern.
And remind me
approach.
again the dates, because I'm going to put this in my calendar.
25, 26 July.
25, 26 July. Awesome.
So that's quite exciting.
I can
for me.
come, right? Awesome. I want to be there.
I think you said something like, and it almost slipped through and slipped through my attention. But you said you would be also happy to help participate or something.
Of course, whatever you need. I'm
So-
happy.
so-
I'm a big supporter, so whatever
So
you need.
yeah, we'll find something
Awesome.
cool.
Awesome.
Right. So and so, what was your one thing that you're gonna implement?
Okay, so there's one personal one. I'm gonna give two, and I know this is a cop out, but the first one that I'm gonna take away and put in my own life is an evening meditation, because I'm pretty good at every morning waking up and the first thing I do, glass of water, meditation. But the evening meditation is something that I want to get back in the habit of doing. That's for my personal thing. For professionally, looking at conversing in biohacking or this area of human performance in a different way, so that it becomes more tangible for everyone, rather than becoming this abstract rich man's concept. And that is something that I will take away, because if you look at a country like Ukraine, and I know at this point I'm rambling, but a country like Ukraine, what Slava is trying to do here is very impressive. And getting this whole discussion around public health and taking control of your own life through biohacking is a very important one. And so if we can take that message and make sure that it's tangible, reachable for people, and as a person who speaks quite a bit, that's my main professional takeaway. How about you?
Yeah. Well, my key takeaway, I already said.
Yeah, that's right. You did. You actually got it.
Yeah. Well, but it's the same thing, It's maybe even like on a meta level that this takeaway, because we are more on the forefront of the whole movement. That's why it's important for us not just doing one additional exercise or something like that, because we are pretty active in that sense. Although there is always more to add, and something to take away off. But on this meta level, I think to think about this, how to create this more available for everyone, and to inspire those people. And as one of the speakers said, there's the difference between teacher and, he said it in Russian, but I don't know if it goes for English as well, but teacher and let's say schooler, somebody in the school, that one is teaching, the other is giving away the information, and the teacher and the students teach themselves, but not to teach themselves, learn themselves. That's the difference. You give one direction, and everybody's like, I can take it, I might not take it, I don't know, but the student has to be willing to take this on.
Yeah.
So our job, our really number one task is to create this so that everyone's willing to take this by themselves. You cannot force that. So that's basically the whole takeaway from the conference, and I think it's a huge takeaway. Really, it's very important to realize this thing. So I thank you for the conversation. Now, people can find you on the Decoding Superhuman podcast.
Decoding Superhuman podcast, Decoding Superhuman on all of the social medias,
Cool.
Instagram, LinkedIn.
Yeah,
there.
it was honored to be actually on your podcast as well.
Oh yeah, you kicked some ass. That was a great episode. Caspers came on and talked about mental models in a way that we hadn't covered before, and so we'll continue.
You give me an opportunity to share that as well once more.
Of course. And so we'll put. Should we throw that in the comments? The link
we
to the
could do that,
podcast,
yeah.
and people can check that one out, because I think it's a very important one for people to listen to too.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome, my friend. We're gonna pound. Awesome.
Okay.
Lots of fun.